We're so glad you could join us for yet another episode of The Catholic View for Women. News and views from a truly Catholic perspective for and about women, of course. My name is Teresa Tomeo. I'm the co-host of The Catholic View, along with Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about younger women and reaching younger women, especially on the college campus, because this is such a mission field, especially with the culture and the way the culture is going after young women. And Astrid, I know you must see this in your work in the Hispanic community especially.
Absolutely. Young people that are basically going to university, and it really is a dream of all Hispanic parents to see their children going to college. But what they don't know is that they are assaulted morally. I mean, their values are attacked when they go to these campuses. So what I see is basically the Bible verse, what does it profit a man to, gain the world if he loses his soul? So that's a really important topic that parents constantly acknowledge. And
Janet, something too, you're a mom of 3 girls, and this is something that you've struggled with, but let's take a look at what one woman had to say. We caught up with her at a recent conference, and she's saying that, you know what, even if your daughters are going to Catholic schools, Catholic colleges, universities, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be exposed to an awful lot of dangerous things about particular lifestyles. Let's take a listen.
I went to a Catholic college, and some parents do think that just because your kid's going to a Catholic school that bad things don't happen. It's not the typical party life, but that's a misconception. There's definitely, the same temptations, especially for females on Catholic campuses. There's sex, there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's partying, there's all that kind of stuff. I think it's really important for women in college to really just kind of have something to ground them. I didn't really get into that stuff because I did have a pretty grounded faith. I was pretty strong in it, but you still face those temptations, and it can be challenging for sure. You see your friends and everything going down a different path, and something that you might realize is unhealthy for them or just dangerous for them, and you definitely try to give them as much advice as possible. But still, it can be, you have to kind of present it in a way knowing that, you're not being judgmental. You really are just being caring and trying to love them in the best way possible. So I've definitely had those moments. But you never really know sometimes if you get somewhere with them or not. But you just pray that the best happens. So.
Wow. It was interesting.
Yeah.
From that young woman.
And I had spoken a little bit more in depth to Kathleen, and one term she used was, she said, these kids nowadays, there's a term friends with benefits. There was even this movie, Friends with Benefits. Right. And what it is it's terrible. I actually had to ask them, but I didn't know. What does this mean? And they said, what it means is you have sex with a person and no other attachment to them. They're just kind of like an acquaintance. And it's okay that this is a person you've agreed that we'll just have sex occasionally and it's fine and good.
Right, the hookup culture.
Hookup culture.
I was really astonished to see that Kathleen was saying that she was a person really grounded in her faith. She was raised very well by her parents, and she went to this college environment, and she felt really like she was tested.
Right.
And she saw all the devastation around her. So that's really an eye-opener for any Catholic parent.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, in the college campuses, Planned Parenthood is like on the assault or the attack at infiltrating. In a lot of the secular campuses, they have clinics actually on campus. And when they're not actually on campus, they recruit, as you know, college students to kind of get people involved. And if you know someone who needs an abortion, you bring them down to the Planned Parenthood up the street. So it's really, it's so impermeated into the campus lifestyle.
Well, that's the thing, it's so accepted. As a matter of fact, I think I may have told you about this, and this is happening in my area of suburban Detroit. It's actually at the University of Michigan campuses, where they've started, a young girl thought it would be a great idea to start something called the Walk of Shame Shuttle, and it's a legitimate business. Newspapers have written about it. True story, I'm serious.
Oh my goodness.
Now, a listener of mine on my radio program sent me this story, and I thought, okay, this must be some type of satire. It can't be real. Someone can't be proud of actually offering this. But what this girl decided to do was she was noticing that a lot of her friends, and we'll keep it clean because this is a family network, who were having a night on the town, so to speak, were having to walk home alone the next morning. And she felt badly for them, so she says, I'm going to start a college cab service for $5, and then she also gives them, not only offers them a ride, but she also gives them a coupon to an abortifacient and a high five. That's what the ad says. And it's been written about in several different newspapers. And the thing that really got me, ladies, is that none of the writers, and as a journalist I'm thinking, you don't ask the question of, gee, what kind of a dangerous situation are these girls putting themselves in? First of all, obviously, sexually transmitted diseases and promiscuity and everything else. But why wouldn't you start something to encourage them not to go that route?
Right.
And yet this is, and all the newspapers were praising this woman, calling her the new young entrepreneur, comparing her to the founder of Facebook, the people who founded, the young men who founded Facebook. And I'm thinking, nobody is talking about the objectivity of women, objectification of women, promiscuity, the dangers out there. This is something that is being hailed as a great business idea. Can you imagine that? True story.
But the colleges really are places that worship at the altars of secular humanism, and Planned Parenthood really does permeate, the curricula of these universities. The culture of death really is present there. And I'm having some conversations with a young woman right now who was in a crisis pregnancy last year at a major state university in California. She told me that she really wasn't sure, like any college student, she was a little nervous, but she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. Her advisor pretty much was advising her to have an abortion and told her to go to Family Planning Associates. Family planning sounds wonderful. She thought, well, they'll give me the option to be able to have my child. What she didn't know is Family Planning Associates is the biggest for-profit abortion chain in Western United States. So she ends up at Family Planning Associates. Before she even gets asked what she wants to do, she's sitting in a stall about to be prepped for an abortion. She did not know. Now, so what she told me was, I was basically, they assumed I wanted an abortion. They didn't offer me alternatives. They barely talked about adoption. There are no resources on my campus, very little for moms. And so they assumed the only thing I could do was have an abortion. She got up and she left. Thank God that she was assertive and she
But how many young women
how many women
assertive
are
like
not
that?
Exactly, who assume maybe they're right. This is probably what's best for me. So Lila Rose has uncovered this as well in her work at Live Action about how the abortion industry, the culture of death is so prevalent in these universities, and astonishingly enough, sometimes Catholic college campuses also have some of these resources.
Right. Well, one other resource is the Nurturing Network, which was founded by Mary Cunningham Agee, and that's been around for over a decade. And what they do is trying to be there as that intervention for these women to say, you don't have to choose between quitting school and having an abortion. There's another thing, and they try to come on and give them the support services. But the problem is, like you're saying, the very staff and teachers and counselors that are in these schools are just leading them down to the abortion clinic, which is terrible.
Absolutely. Feminists for Life says refuse to choose, and a woman should not have to choose between her child and her career.
That's right.
But it's so scary because it's just so expected of these young women that they're going to, quote unquote, expected to have all these different relationships.
Right.
It's very frightening to me. Now, there are a lot of different groups, though, the ministries that are coming up that are so successful at getting a positive message out there about modesty and fashion and dignity, a true dignity of women. We're just going to mention a few of them now, but I want to remind you, you can always go to our website, thecatholicviewforwomen.com, to find these resources. Purefashion.com has done a wonderful job in terms of actually providing modesty guidelines and fashion shows, and Brenda Sharman and that group has done a wonderful job with information for young women on how to dress, but to look great. To look fashionable but modest. Endow is a wonderful organization for women. It actually is an acronym for educating on the nature and dignity of women, and that was started under the leadership of the wonderful Archbishop Chaput, who's now in Philadelphia. Focus, of course, is a fellowship of Catholic university students, and that's a wonderful ministry that ministers to both men and women on campuses. And then the Cardinal Newman Society, and we're going to hear an interview with someone who works at the Cardinal Newman Society at a college campus in New Jersey when we come back. And then chastity.com, you're familiar with that website.
The New Sexual Revolution, which is led by Kristalina and Jason Everett, and the wonderful work that they do. These are answers, these are places where people can go and get real answers to their questions.
Well, we're going to take a break in a minute, but again, I just want to remind you that you can go to our website for all these resources, CatholicViewForWomen.com, and really want to encourage you to check these things out because we've done a lot of research ourselves and vetted these organizations. I've interviewed many of the people involved. I know that you have had, both Janet and Astrid as pro-life activists, have had involvement or at least contact with these groups, and we know there's a positive alternative out there for young women. But it's so sad to me that they get caught up in this lifestyle, and there's another way, and the way, of course, is the way of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church. So let's take a break, and we'll come back on The Catholic View, and we'll talk to Mary Kaminski. She is in the trenches with young women on the college campus, and we'll share her interview when we come back. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining us and welcome back to another episode of The Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo along with Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana, my co-hosts for this wonderful program. We're talking about reaching Catholic women. In particular, in this episode, we're trying to concentrate on Catholic women at the college level, which is a very vulnerable time of a young woman's life because they get out of the home and they go off to college and they're exposed to all kinds of things, even sometimes if they're at a Protestant or a Catholic university or college. Now, in just a minute, we're going to show a very good interview that I had the chance to do with Mary Kaminski. Now, I know Mary from the March for Life and Silent No More,
right.
And you know her a little bit more than most about
Yes.
a very interesting journey that she's been on back to Christ.
Yeah, Mary actually, the reason why she has such a heart to work with young women on college campuses is because she herself, when she was in high school, she was 17, was, sleeping with her boyfriend. She was raised in a good Catholic family, going to Catholic high school, and she became promiscuous with him and became pregnant and had an abortion. And she went to a Planned Parenthood clinic in New Jersey. She was only 17. Back then, this is before abortion was legal in New Jersey, but it was legal in New York. And they sent her to New York to one of Dr. Nathanson's clinics, and they told her to lie about her age.
Wow.
Lie about her age. So her and her boyfriend went off, she had that abortion, came back, and she said there it was, the slippery slope. From that, she stopped going to church, her grades plummeted, she just couldn't function anymore, basically. And that relationship broke up, but then she kept sleeping around, and just everything kept going downhill, downhill. Of course, years went by, she found healing through Rachel's Vineyard, speaks out for Silent No More, and so her passion for working in campus ministry is that she wants to stop these young ladies from going down the road that she knew that she went down, and the trauma and the upsetment and all the problems it created for her, if she can just stop some of these ladies. So she has, I think, great insight. And so we had a chance to talk to, as you did, Teresa,
Right.
in depth. So let's take a look right now to our interview with Mary Kaminski.
Many women that are on a college campus today are away from their faith. For many, many different reasons. And what the church can do is have young people, almost a peer-to-peer ministry. We have what's called Focus, which is the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. So that is kind of an ideal way for young students that have kind of gone back to their faith or, are really filled with sharing their faith to outreach to other students.
What else do you think the church can be doing on a nationwide level to reach out to young women on campus, especially because women are so attacked by the culture?
I think that many women today do not know the truths of the Catholic Church and what they really believe about women. And part of that is my generation really let go of all the things that the church had as truths. And now it's a great opportunity for the church to say, well, why do we believe, that we shouldn't have sex before marriage? Why do we believe that marriage is sacred between a man and a woman? Why do we believe that women should have children naturally and that, all these other things, the pill, contraception, is a bunch of garbage? So I really think that those are issues that women really need to know that they don't know because they're barraged with all what the media says and the culture of contraception and everything that's out there that's all they hear. Okay, and if women aren't going into church, they're not hearing it, and many times in the pulpit we're not hearing it. So where do they have the opportunity to hear it? Possibly on a college campus, in a campus ministry setting, where people there that are educated can give them the right information.
Speaking of the culture and the things you mentioned, how much of an influence do you think the culture is, the mass media, on the young people that you work with in terms of the influence?
Oh, it's tremendous. The college campus today is probably one of the most dangerous spots for a young woman. Women are being exploited sexually. There's so much going on that it doesn't matter who you're with or where you're with. Everything is open. All types of sexual behavior are encouraged and promoted. And then you've got abortion if you're pregnant. You have egg donation, which is a whole nother industry that women are being exploited. And it's just almost women are being used as objects in a way that is just so dangerous, especially for the ages of 19 to 22 in those years. I feel very strongly about, especially this generation, letting them know that abortion is not the answer, that contraception is not the answer, that exploitation of themselves is not the answer. And I'm very comfortable in telling the truth because I'm concerned that this next generation does not make the same mistakes as my generation did. We were not told the truth. We were told a bunch of lies. We were told it was a glob of selling tissues. We were told, you know, sex outside of marriage was okay. You know, nothing is going to happen. And even the emotional, the spiritual damage that a woman has, even if they don't get pregnant, is lifelong. Okay, and when a woman goes to get married and she's in multiple, you know, relationships with different guys, you know, she brings all that with her, okay, into that marriage. And we wonder why today 1 in 2 marriages are failing in a divorce. So yes, I feel very concerned for this generation. I'm very hopeful as well that this group of young people is interested in hearing the message. They may have been persuaded by the media in the opposite direction 80%, but once they hear the truth and you really speak from your heart, it's something, it plants a seed. And I give them a lot of information, websites, the internet, which is, you know, how they get information. Here, listen to this testimony on our Silent No More website, or find out this information about the pill, or did you know this about egg donation? I said, listen, my story's my story, but go out and find the truth. It's all out there.
Well, I'm sure you can see by this interview Mary's real spirit and how she really, like she said, she's just trying to provide them the truth. You know, they go on the internet, and so she's just kind of guiding them and pushing them in the right direction, you know, so that they find out the real truth and what's out there. You know?
Yeah. And she works with a lot of groups that she mentioned in the interview that you're familiar with, and we talked a little bit about before the break. And one of them, when we talked about, we didn't mention Love and Fidelity yet, but there's Love and Fidelity, and also the Ruth Institute, which is run by Dr. Jennifer Roback-Morse. Tell us about what you know about these organizations, Astrid.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to mention that I went to 2 secular universities, UCLA and UC Berkeley, and I mean, I know firsthand what it is to be in these places, think you know what you're doing, and can be completely lost. And then to be blessed by a group, a student-led group, that brings you back to the truths of the Catholic Church. When I was at UCLA, I met a group called John Paul II Society, led by a group that was from the Opus Dei. And they taught me my faith, and I was so blessed after that. I never looked back. And what's amazing is some of these groups are popping up in the most unexpected places. This young woman, her name is Cassandra Hoff, she began a group called the Anscombe Society out of Princeton University. And people might not know this, but you know, Princeton is a secular university, but they have a wonderful professor like Robert George who's teaching there.
Incredible, Robert George, yes.
Unfortunately, they also have a Peter Singer, but anyway. But they have groups that are faithful to the Catholic Church, and Cassandra began that society, but now it's become a network of student-run groups that are promoting chastity, family, and traditional marriage. She has affiliates at Harvard University, Yale, and Yale has a very famous Sex Week, you know.
Yes.
So this group at Yale is an answer to that, and they have gotten mainstream media coverage for that new group that is challenging what the university sees as the status quo, you know, that you know, promiscuity and all of this should be normal. Well, they're saying, no, we're tired of it. We're suffering the ravages of the culture of death, and we want to propose something different, something radical. So they are really making a buzz in these places. So if somebody listening to us wants to maybe start a group on their campus, loveandfidelity.org is the website. They also have a blog where they can find, if there's already a group on campus, you can join it or you can start a group, and Cassandra basically is helping to lead all of these different groups. And they're also on religious campuses as well as secular universities. And then we also have the RuthInstitute.org, which is run by Dr. Roback-Morse, and she's done a lot of great work with university students, and she has an outreach called Making Marriage Cool. So we know right now marriage is being attacked left and right.
All over the place.
Well, she provides answers not only from the faith perspective, because she is a revert to the Catholic faith, but also just, you know, reasons that have nothing to do with religion, but just basically saying that marriage is good for society.
It's common sense.
Common sense, exactly.
Not only the marriage teachings of the church, but our teachings on sexuality.
That's right.
You know, I love Archbishop Chaput. I've mentioned him a million times. He endorsed my book, Extreme Makeover. But in his book, Render Under Caesar, which is one of my favorites, which I think every line in that book is highlighted. That's a great resource. We should put that on the website too, Render Under Caesar by Archbishop Chaput. He says that Catholics should never be afraid about engaging the public square, because everything the Catholic Church teaches is about the dignity of the human person. Every person, not just Catholics, and it makes such good sense.
Especially in the university campus. It's supposed to be a marketplace of ideas.
Right.
So Professor Robert George is saying, you know, why can't we bring this into the conversation as well? And Dr. Roback Morse, she wrote a book called Smart Sex, which basically goes into all this. Every university student should read this. Everyone should read it. And she says, in an interview, she said she wanted to call it dumb sex, but she decided, well, that won't sell too well, so I'll call it Smart Sex. Definitely read that. And of course, the wonderful resources found at chastity.com, which is Jason and Kristalina Everett and their ministry, is wonderful for college students. And they have a great book that I think especially young women should read called How to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul. You will be blessed by that book. Everybody should get it and give it as gifts. And they actually have a special rate if you buy bulk, really, really inexpensive, to give these.
So buy bulk and rent a helicopter and then drop them all over the place. I mean, seriously. Don't you feel like you want to do that sometimes?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, a project that Father Pavone and I did back when he was my parish priest is we did something like that. We bought a bunch of pro-life books and we donated them to every public library on Staten Island where he was my parish priest. And guess what? They took the books. So sometimes you think they don't want the materials. Sometimes you have to just offer it to them and they might take them. You know?
I think the problem is that people automatically are thinking, because of the culture, if you look at the media, if you look at everything we're bombarded with, that it's expected of them. I remember Dr. Pia de Seleni, a moral theologian, saying once on my show that she was approached by a young college girl after she gave a talk on chastity and church teaching on modesty and whatnot. And the girl came up to her and said, "You're the first person," and she was Catholic, "that ever told me I didn't have to have relations with my boyfriend."
Right.
Wow.
She never heard that before. She automatically assumed that she had to have sex outside of marriage, at least with her current partner, if not multiple partners.
Well, you know what one young person said to me? Well, you know why we have to have multiple partners before we get married? I went, why? And I said, well, how do we know if we don't like it, if it's going to work? You don't want to be with them forever if you don't like it. I was like, what? And they act like they're trying on a pair of shoes, like see if it fits or not.
Right.
Well,
and it's like it's just the mindset. It's so it's infuriating.
And it's in the universities. It's being taught. We think it's just some outrageous thing in the TV.
No, it's not.
Being taught by college
it's the
professors.
culture. You know, the story that I told you before the break, the walk of shame. Everybody thinks this is a great idea. Not one, and her parents are helping her with this business.
That's even worse. That the parents are helping.
They think it's just so creative. You know.
But you know what? This all stems back to me. Going back to Amana Vitae.
Yeah, contraception.
Contraception. And that document was not just about contraception, but all of this sexual promiscuity.
What it would do to women, what it would do to women, society.
You know, Pope Paul VI had it right all the way back in 68. And what we're doing is we're seeing the results of ignoring, of not following right now. We're just paying the price 1 minute after the next.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time. And we have so many resources, though, to offer you for this show. And we really, one of the things that we do, as I said earlier, is try to find good resources to where you can go and get this information and download it for yourself. So again, just a couple of things we mentioned: purefashion.com, endowgroups.org, focusonline.org, cardinalnewmansociety.org, chastity.com, loveandfidelity.org, and the Ruth Institute.org, as well as Jason and Kristalina's website, chastity.com. And of course, we have many links on the main page of EWTN.com and many other shows. I would also encourage you to check out the work of our friend and fellow EWTN host, Damon Owens, who's just a dear, dear man and just a great teacher, and he runs the Theology of the Body Institute, now the executive director, and is my co-host every year on the March for Life. So,
and just as a teacher, one final point, take one of those websites, look into it, but then your homework assignment is at least tell 5 students and help give them this information.
Oh, and remind them, we should real quickly, the Madonna of the kitchen, only have about a minute left.
But I think she could be the Madonna of the kitchenette in the dorm room.
Or the Madonna of the microwave in the dorm room.
And hot plate.
And hot plate.
And she would be a great model. I bet you things would clean up in those dorm rooms if there was a Madonna of the kitchen in every one.
There you go. Get it for a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. Thanks for watching us. Once again, my name is Teresa Tomeo, and my co-hosts, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana. Thanks so much for your support. Pray for us here at EWTN in this program. And don't forget, give you the website one more time, where all these great resources on this topic of reaching young Catholic women. It's thecatholicviewforwomen.com. Pray for us, and we'll see you next time on Catholic View for Women. Have a great day.